Hey everyone, this is Prince B. Before we jump into the actual video, I just wanted to take a little moment and dedicate this video. Last night, I read the news that Nintendo President and CEO Satoru Iwata had passed away. And I sat there and I said that I wouldn't cry. Something you may not know about me, and this is kind of a hard thing to explain, I actually like to cry when something in a story or a game is incredibly emotional and touching. It reminds me that I'm human and that I'm alive, and it gives me something to contrast the good and the bad against. You can't have happiness without sadness and anger and all the negative feelings. They remind us that about the good times. That's my philosophy on that anyways. But this is different. A story is a story. You can always go back to the beginning of a story or reset a game and everything will be fine. Your favorite characters will still be there and none of the tragedies that happen in a story have occurred yet. And everything will be alright. But it's not the same with someone's life or their legacy. I sat there and I said that I wouldn't cry, I'd be strong, and I'd remember him with a smile on my face. I didn't want to remember him like that. And I lasted a few hours, but then I just couldn't help it. I cried and I cried. He'd made such an impact on my childhood, and even now, the games that I love, the ones that I look to for inspiration, that was him helping out in directing those projects. He was the one who programmed Earthbound and Kirby. He was the one who made it possible to explore Kanto in the Gold, Silver, and Crystal games when there just wasn't enough space on the cartridge. It wasn't just the old games either. He'd been involved in games like Melee and Brawl and Sunshine, Animal Crossing, Pikmin, and even more recently, Xenoblade Chronicles and Fire Emblem Awakening. The impact he left, I just couldn't help myself. I really cried about someone I'd never met, yet who had impacted me in such a powerful way. I normally don't get upset over things like this, at least not to this extent. I've never met him, not in person. When other stars have died, it was sad, but they never impacted me quite like this. Eventually, after I was done, I went out and I got my Meta Knight amiibo. And Meta Knight's first appearance was in Kirby Adventure, which Iwata helped program. And I hadn't had a chance yet to sit down and train my amiibo. So I sat down and I played with it for a few hours. And I did remember him with a smile on my face. And so I guess what I'm getting at is I just want to thank Mr. Iwata for everything he's done and all the lives that he's touched and impacted, including my own. So with that said, this video is dedicated to him and his legacy.
Greetings everyone, I'm Prince B.
And I'm Flagon for the Win 9, and today we're gonna make a mess with Splatoon.
Let's dive in.
My prince, are you doing alright in here? Do you have any idea how long it's going to take me to clean all this up?
Such a mess, such a mess.
There we go, all cleaned up. You're still here? You know, I've been cleaning up after my prince for a while now. I think I'm about due for a vacation. But of course, someone has to still be here to take care of him. I wonder, perhaps my prince has a game of some sort that would allow me to simulate a vacation while still being here to take care of him. Just a moment. Super Mario Sunshine. Yes, well, I suppose this'll work. What's with that look? Oh, very well, I suppose you all can come along too.
Prologue. Background information. Super Mario Sunshine is a game released in 2002 for the Nintendo GameCube and is the second 3D Mario title, following Mario 64. It takes Mario out of the familiar setting of the Mushroom Kingdom and to a tropical island, as we'll discuss shortly. The game was received well, but how does it hold up? We'll see in just a bit. Chapter 1. Story and Characters. The game opens with Mario, Peach, an elderly toad named Toadsworth, and several toads on a plane headed for a lovely tropical vacation. Their destination? The Isle of Delfino, inhabited by the Pianta and Nokis. However, their vacation is off to a rough start, as the airstrip where they land has been covered by paint-like glue. Acting quickly, Mario finds a water pump called Flood, and uses it to clean the graffiti. However, shortly thereafter, he is hauled away by the Pianta police and put on trial, as a mysterious troublemaker who strongly resembles Mario has been covering the island in graffiti. Perhaps Mario should have used some of the coins he obtained on his adventures to hire a half-decent lawyer, who could have pointed out the fact that Mario just arrived on the island and couldn't have possibly been the culprit. Or maybe he could have asked his brother Luigi for a loan. Seriously, the guy's loaded. Glaring plot holes aside, Mario is found guilty and sentenced to community service, tasked with cleaning the entire island of the pollution and returning the Shine Sprites, which act as the island's guardians, back to the island. With Flood at his side, Mario sets off on another adventure instead of enjoying his relaxing summer vacation. Aside from the standard Mario characters such as Mario, Princess Peach, Toad, and Bowser, Super Mario Sunshine was also the first appearance for a variety of characters who have returned either in main series games or spin-offs, such as the aforementioned Piantas and Nokis, who often appear as background characters, as well as Toadsworth and Bowser Jr. Oddly enough though, Luigi is mysteriously absent. Was he not important enough to be invited to the fun tropical adventure? Poor Luigi never gets any respect. Just like a certain butler I know. Anyways, let's move on to the game's presentation. Chapter 2. Graphics and Audio. As stated earlier, this game was released in 2002, and it looked amazing. The water was beautiful, the paint looked vibrant, and while Isle Delfino starts out very shady in the beginning, as the game progresses and you collect more Shine Sprites, the island returns to its prior state of blinding brightness. But how do the graphics hold up? Well, things still look gorgeous and bright even over a decade later. After seeing the Wind Waker HD upgrade, I can only imagine how this game would look in HD. It'd probably look akin to going outside, far too bright. But seriously, the water looks beautiful and the paint is just so wonderfully brightly colored. Some of the textures are a bit basic, but it's not a bad thing in the slightest. In terms of audio, the music is delightfully catchy and truly invokes a tropical feel. It's still easily recognized and often heard in other games, such as the Delfino Plaza stage in Super Smash Bros. I do find it worth mentioning that I encountered occasional audio errors in which music became desynced. However, this may have been a problem between the old GameCube and the newer TV, so I wouldn't hold that against the game itself. Finally, this game actually has voice actors beyond the standard sounds Mario makes jumping or taking damage. Hearing Bowser talk is kind of bizarre. I'm honestly a little uncomfortable with it. This may be the reason future games such as Super Mario Galaxy didn't have this. That wraps up the general presentation, so let's move on to the core gameplay. Chapter 3. Gameplay. Super Mario Sunshine is certainly not a standard Mario game. Rather than being a side-scrolling platformer like the old 2D games, or a platforming adventure like the other 3D Mario games, this is more akin to an adventure game with puzzle-solving elements utilizing Flood. However, it most certainly does include a large number of platforming elements and stages. Using Flood, Mario must clean up the isle and help the residents of the island with their various problems. Even on vacation, I still can't stop cleaning. With that said, there wasn't nearly as large an emphasis on cleaning as I had originally remembered, but it's still there to a large extent. The water pump is the most unique thing about the game, as it makes maneuvering certain levels far easier, but also makes it far more difficult on certain levels where you lose access to it, as the game trains you to rely on it, and suddenly losing it makes even recovering from an ill-timed jump far harder. Speaking of jumping, controls are fairly standard for a Mario game, with Mario having access to a wide arsenal of jumps, except the long jump, which for some reason is absent. Controls can feel a bit wibbly-wobbly at first, but become better later on. And on that note, playing with a new GameCube controller made for the Wii U felt a bit stiff. For this reason, I'd recommend using an old GameCube controller if you have access to one. Finally, the camera is probably the biggest problem. While it can be controlled and functions well for the most part, it does have a tendency to zoom in or swing around at inopportune times. Sometimes the physics can be a bit weird, like with jump pads in the pachinko level, and the hit detection can be a bit glitchy at times. This can lead to some frustrating deaths, but they happen infrequently enough that it's not a huge problem, though it would of course be better if they weren't there at all. With controls out of the way, let's talk about levels. Delfino Plaza serves as the game's main hub, in a manner similar to Peach's Castle in Mario 64 or Rosalina's Observatory in Galaxy. From here, you can talk to various NPCs, trade in blue coins that you would collect in various levels for shine sprites, and of course, select levels as you unlock them. In addition, there are various hidden levels and shine sprites to be found here. There's a good amount of diversity to the stages and their levels, taking place at a variety of locations around ISLE Delfino. While each stage features some common elements like red coin stages, platforming stages without flute, and a Shadow Mario mission, in general they do feel different enough that it doesn't feel like a rehashing of levels. Further, there are a variety of unique missions, such as a watermelon festival, in which you have to find the largest melon in the stage and roll it to the juice stand without it breaking. Some levels have more than one way to reach the objective. Conversely, some are incredibly linear. Further, some levels are fairly easy, while others present a genuine challenge that makes it incredibly rewarding to beat. The game can be occasionally cryptic in what your current objective is, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, as it encourages you to talk to the various NPCs, explore the levels, and figure things out for yourself. Further, the level names and intro scenes typically give you a decent idea of what to do. The game also has a good number of bosses to face. While a number of these are recycled a few too many times, there are also a good number that only appear once, and they feel very unique. One boss even has you play dentist to a gigantic eel. Brush your teeth, young master, you know you eat too much sugar. Collecting everything is a nightmare, and honestly, it's not really worth it. You only need to complete the first 7 missions of each level, with the 7th always having you chase Shadow Mario. All the other shine sprites, as well as blue coins, are optional, and the payoff for it isn't really worth it. For this reason, I recommend only doing the required levels, and the levels you actually enjoy. That takes care of the gameplay segments, so next let's give a brief discussion of the ideas this game presents. Chapter 4: Ideas and Themes. To be honest, there aren't a huge number of hidden themes in this game. If I had to select one though, it would be the obvious. Pollution is bad and we have to clean it up. Easier said than done, of course. But Mario games have never exactly been the most thought-provoking games out there, now have they? Also, another tip, invest in a good lawyer. That's all I have, honestly. With that out of the way, let's give Mario our final verdict. It's not like he has anyone to defend him anyways. Final chapter, verdict. Super Mario Sunshine is a fun game, and could easily be considered a classic of the GameCube era. While not the standard Mario game, it's unique and fun, with vibrant colors and wonderful music, and a fun tropical background. The controls can be a bit difficult at times, particularly the camera, however it isn't bad enough to ruin the gameplay overall. Super Mario Sunshine receives a happy ending. It's a game I think everyone should at least try, and is a great feel-good game. Just stay away from the pachinko level, for your own sanity.
Well, with that little review done, I think it's about time I continue my little virtual vacation alone. Until next time. What did I tell you about recording things while I was gone?
Oh shush, you missed a spot. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and consider supporting this channel by watching some of my Prince's other videos, such as his Platoon review, or you can check out my review of Black Butler.